237. This is a photograph of the lettering that was found in the bag with the remains of Caylee Anthony. The last remnant of a shirt. Remember, the testimony was all that was left of the shirt was the stitching around the collar and these letters. Could I have State's Exhibit 13, please? And there's a photograph. Caylee Marie Anthony wearing the shirt in which she died, with not a stranger, Casey Anthony. Could I have 255, please, photo and evidence? And I'll need Exhibit 288. This is a photograph of the blanket that was with the remains of Caylee that was found on December the 11th of 2008. You'll notice in the middle of the photograph you see a particular character, Winnie the Pooh with Piglet on his shoulders. Exhibit 288 is the bedding that was on Caylee's bed, maintained by her grandparents for all those months she was supposed to missing. You'll see the Winnie the Pooh theme, but also you'll see the exact same figure on the bumper from Caylee Anthony's bed. This blanket was not taken from the home of some stranger, but was taken from the home George and Cindy Anthony, where Cindy and Caylee lived. The claim that some stranger abducted Caylee Anthony was no longer tenable. Just as the claim that Caylee was at Zanny's sleeping, just like the claim that she worked at Universal Studios, just like the claim that she left Caylee at Zanny's house, one by one, those claims died. And by the time Caylee's body was found, any suggestion that Caylee was kidnapped and murdered by a stranger was gone. There's no question left that Caylee Anthony died at the hands of someone in that house. When we started this trial, the defense in opening statement made some statements. I want to first, of course, remind you that what the attorneys say, what I say, what defense counsel says is not evidence in this case. The evidence that you must decide this case on is what comes from the witness stand or from these exhibits and evidence. In opening statement, defense counsel gave you a very, very detailed explanation, story of how Caylee Anthony died. With dramatic flair, he told you about Casey Anthony being awakened in the morning by her father, screaming at her, "Where's Caylee? Where's Caylee?" About a frantic search for the child, about the grandfather bringing her up, wet from having pulled her from the pool, and laying her at Casey's feet and screaming, "This is your fault! This is your fault!" The judge will instruct you on the definition of reasonable doubt. He will tell you that a reasonable doubt is not a mere possible, a speculative, imaginary, or forced doubt. Such doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. The defense's opening statement has not been established by any evidence in this case.
Burden shifting. Vote to strike.
Overruled. In fact, the only evidence presented in this case is that it did not happen. George Anthony, the first witness you heard in this case, told you that it did not happen. You may not speculate, you may not imagine, and there is simply no evidence in this case to support that contention. And you must reject it. The defense's opening was not simply to create one villain. The defense was not satisfied with one. They suggested a second. They suggested someone that counsel referred to as morally bankrupt, Roy Kronk. The defense in opening suggested to you somehow, and perhaps counsel will clarify this in his closing argument, that somehow George Anthony disposed of Kaylee's body, and that George Anthony was somehow, actually we'll concede, George Anthony is connected to the tape, tapes from the house, that George Anthony's connection to the tape somehow connects him to placing the tape on Kaylee's body. Remember, Mr. Defense counsel said, follow the tape.